This is Water. They've been running their campaign for the past 2 years, and recently they've struggled to know where to take the story next, so they came to me for help with villains. But as we chatted, I discovered some underlying issues to do with how they managed a large campaign that I think can really help them solve the issues holding them and their players back. What was the issue you wanted to come with today?
Trying to bring out the villain more, but at the same time trying to put it more put more mystery in it, and at the same time it not being a classic D&D adventure, so that there will be more heroics.
What's the villain you have?
I have a dwarf priestess of this Emerald Lord, corruptor god, and she's trying to bring justice to her enemies.
So is it more less that she's like a straight up villain and more like a kind of like an anti-villain? I have a framework for the 4 types of villains. You have villains, anti-villains, heroes, anti-heroes. Villains have bad methods and bad goals. Heroes have good methods and good goals. Anti-heroes have good goals but bad methods. And anti-villains have bad goals but good methods. Players often enjoy being challenged by different types of antagonists as the game goes on. Sometimes it can be fun to have a villain who's just definitely evil, and other times it can be fun to have a villain who is doing the same goal as you but has bad methods to achieve that goal.
In the Orden version, she's actually trying to avenge against War Dogs. Basically, like War Dogs wiped her home. She's trying to build an army for herself so she could get her home back and fight Ajax.
And so do you want her to be a villain for like a shorter adventure, like a 1 or 2 session adventure? Or do you want her to be like a villain for like a overarching, maybe like a whole echelon or something in between?
At the moment, I'm building a shorter version, probably like maybe 10 victors, maybe like a level, basically.
So it sounds like she has motivations which are not opposed to the players, but might not be aligned. You know, there might be some, if I was going to put this kind of enemy in there, right, she's opposed to Ajax, if we're using Orden speak or whatever in your world, that means she is a potential ally of the players early on. So there's kind of 2 parts to this question. Why wouldn't the players ally with her? What is she doing which is so evil as to make it so that even though she's also against Ajax, she's not an ally they'd even consider? And 2, and I don't remember the second part of that question, brain's gone dead. Why don't they work with her? Why isn't she an ally against Ajax? What makes her the villain?
Her story, in some sense, like her villainous story, starts with a heist that has happened off screen, where she goes into one of the towers, has found Vampire Lord, who was killed like 30 years ago, but she found out that the Vampire Lord was not killed fully, and there is a part of that vampire which is still alive, and what she's now starting to feed that vampire people. So she's basically stealing, her minions are stealing people, and she's feeding them to the vampire. She does it because through that she does a magical ritual from what she creates, basically like blood dwarves or like sanguine dwarves.
Have you already introduced the concept of these dwarves to the players?
No.
You want to introduce her before this takes place, yes?
It would be the best.
We know that at some point she is a problem the players are going to solve. But to me, she sounds like she might be a really, really good B-plot villain. A B-plot is a secondary plot basically designed to annoy your players. The goal of it is to give your players a second problem when dealing with things they'd be fine with anyway. Going from place A to place B to take out the villain is fine unless the B-plot is that there's a dragon flying around trying to hunt them down, and suddenly riding horseback across an open plain is going to be a big issue. My suggestion would be introduce her first of all by, instead of her going and doing this like thing where she goes and gets the MacGuffin she needs to start being able to make the blood dwarfs, I would suggest possibly have her hire the players to do that. When the players need something for whatever other quests they're going on, or for a personal reason, like a backstory reason, have her be like, hey, I can give you this thing if you go and do this thing. Then after they've completed that, if they need help, they can turn to her again and she'll send in these dwarves and they'll go, wait, there's some problems here with how the dwarves are behaving. At that point, they might then realize, oh, we might need to go back and stop her doing this evil thing because we've unintentionally helped her achieve her evil goal.
I actually kind of find myself doing that thing quite often now with Rosteel. I don't know if it is a good thing, because using the heroes to do something that they think is good, but in the end it comes out that they're actually working for a villain or a crazy person.
I wouldn't frame it as a thing that they can do which is good. A reward which is like too good to be true. It's like a get rich quick scheme. It's like, oh, would you like a level treasure and a wealth level each. And then typically, in my experience, the heroes hear that reward and go, I don't trust you anymore.
Yeah, I think there's a sense even where she just has something that the players really need for another adventure. So it's just about the need that they don't really care what's the morality of the dwarf, but they need something that she has. And the dwarf is ready to give it.
And the other option is if they know that she is evil and they decide not to take the quest, whatever villain they're currently fighting should 100% get the reward that they would have got. If she offers them a bunch of money on a magic item and they don't take it, then the villain they're fighting gets it and now they're allied and you can kind of set her up as part of that. This doesn't sound like a character who is explicitly completely evil. I also think it would be important to have space for her to be redeemable.
I guess when she would align with heroes, she would need those dwarves in some sense. Like as you said, there are other ways how she could reach her goal. It's just the only one that she can see right now in her anger. And also, like, going to the end of the adventure, if she would be like redeemed, when she decides or understands that the thing that she has been doing is evil, she will probably be too far and she will probably be killed by that vampire. There is a possibility, like at one point, the vampire itself is already so strong and powerful that she will just
the vampire might take over. And that's also another fun thing is like, have the party have the possibility of the vampire being raised later on. Does that to you feel like you've solved the problem, or does this feel like we've talked about stuff that you already knew?
I had a plan for this adventure to put it into my like campaign that I have right now. But I at one point I understood that it probably just doesn't work. Kind of that the story that I'm having right now is going a bit in a different way, so that it would be wasted in some sense. Maybe.
The game you want to put it in, what's going on with it right now that makes you think that?
Okay, I'm playing in my world, which is kind of a version of Orden, or at least I've taken a lot of things from Orden.
Orden is something called a setting. A lot of dungeon masters and GMs don't have the time to develop their own entire world, so instead they buy or borrow somebody else's setting. In this case, Orden is Drawsteel's default setting. It's MCDM's world, it comes with Drawsteel.
And I'm 15 years basically before Ajax conquers Vasloria. My players right now, they're in a different, like a kingdom, so to say. It's not really a kingdom, but it was a kingdom. And they are right now gathering crown jewels of a crown of an old king who once lived there. I originally had planned that the vampire was one of the persons who was defending one of those crown jewels. Yeah, so there was a king who had a magic crown, which consisted of 5 crystals, and they're really powerful. One of those stones was the vampire defended it. And so it is there, and my players are, one of my players mostly is seeking those parts of the crown. And they come to that town, or that part of the world. And her motivation is to get that stone, basically.
So why don't you think introducing this dwarven lady in as another faction, right? Because I wonder if part of the issue is, do you already have a villain overarching for this game?
So. Actually, I don't have a really big. I'm thinking about trying to bring in Relg, and there will be like a war, a lot of politics going on. It's quite complicated to try to put it into words. I don't have really good personification of or a BBG.
The BBEG, or Babig, is the big bad evil guy. It means anyone from our little table who is normally a true villain. They're the main villain of the campaign, and their goal is to just make the players very unhappy. What is driving the party though? When they're doing things, are they doing it because they just want to? What's their motivation?
There's a faction who so the country right now where or the nation that they go about is actually ruled by colleges that were created by 9 saints. So there are 9 colleges. It was 20 years ago when nobles were overthrown, and now the colleges and their leaders lead the country. There is a faction of nobles, like a Shadowhorn. It's in Estonian, is something other, like the brethren of Shadowhorn, or Horn of Shadows. Translate into English. Which is who are trying to actually also gather that same crown, because they believe that they can bring monarchy back, and so they can reinstate themselves. They have already so this is one of factions that they're having a conflict with, because my players already have had few conflicts earlier in other adventures.
Yeah.
And now one of my players, there's so much info, is a princess of another country or other nation or kingdom, which was overthrown by an empire. She is trying to get that crown. She is married to a noble who is not aligned with that other faction, and she wants that noble to become the king. So she would get
What I'm hearing is that it sounds like you as a director don't like putting in hardcore, here is the bad faction, here is the good faction. Like, it sounds like the factions you've been describing sound like shades of grey.
This campaign has become really grey. It started black and white, but the more we go on, people are finding out that it's really grey.
Right, and this is the thing that I've had to come to terms with as a DM, and that at some point your game is going to have to end. Like, let's be real. At some point you're going to need it, and you're going to want a satisfying ending, particularly if you're running for this long. And it sounds like you've been running for a long time and opening new problems, right? That the player, we've got 9 colleges, we've got this thing, we've got this thing, we've got this thing. How do I start closing these off satisfyingly? Not, it closes off and, we defeat that bad guy, but actually they were working for this guy, so we have to go fight the third guy so that we have to get the key that unlocks the box to open another key, right? Or whatever order those words are supposed to be in. My suggestion to you is what your game sounds like it is missing isn't another character who is shades of grey and is relatable. It sounds to me like you're missing like an Ajax or a Lich or Relg or something evil. It's the thing they say in the monster books about how the reason you have the war dogs, the undeads, and the demons is sometimes your players need to be able to we're playing a game about fighting monsters, fight a group of monsters without having to worry, am I going to find out after I kill this group of people that they were actually only fighting because another villain was like ruining their land, right? Whatever. My suggestion would be, I think that having listened to you talk about it, actually the way to help this is make the this dwarven lady categorically evil. I think if you add her in as just evil, she is just evil. There's no, maybe she's a little bit grey, maybe there's no. She's doing an evil thing for okay reasons, but the methods are so evil. The murdering people, using their blood to like genetically modify dwarves or however you want to flavour that, right? And all of that part of it. Just let that be an evil thing and have that as a villain somewhere in the world where it doesn't need to be that long, as you said, as an adventure. It could just be a few victories, and she can still be really cool, and there can still be this plot line about her using a vampire, right? And killing her might free the vampire if they're not careful. She might even try and free the vampire on them to survive, right? But make her evil. Give your players a break from all of this grey and all of this shenanigans, and let them go, we can be confident that murdering this person is okay.
The thing I was trying to do, which is stupid a bit, is that I was trying to kind of create like 2 adventures for 2 different worlds. So I was kind of which was my mistake here right now also, is that I was trying to describe like an overview of an adventure which was not set in a world really well. But at the moment I actually have a campaign which is what you described it. So what we described. So what we talked about earlier isn't really like it wouldn't work here.
Yes.
So, as you said, yes, I think you're right.
Then the other thing I would challenge you to, right, having listened to this, and I'd love to have another chat like this, would be, I think that what you need to do is, as well as this, you need to start thinking, you've been playing for 2 years, that's a long, long time. You need to start listening to what the players are putting forward as solutions to the problems. And this might sound a bit bad, but you need to start thinking in your head which ones are good and bad ones.
When we end with this vampire and this dwarf, they will have gathered all of the crown.
Yeah.
They have the whole crown. So it will basically like wrap one part of the game up. Yeah, I don't know. It's a big campaign. I usually have never played for so long. I only played for maybe 7 or 8 months. So it's really fun. But it's as you said, always opening new plots it's
The
maybe not.
first skill you have to learn as a director is how to run the game. The second skill is how to create your own adventures. And then the third skill is how to end your own adventures. Most directors never put thought into how they want the game to end. And neither do players. If you ask a player, what do you want to happen to your character? They go, I don't know, I want to go on an adventure. It's like, well, what happens? Where does that lead to? What do you want your character to be at the end of this campaign?
Yeah, I just asked my players like what are their like motivations or goals.
Yeah.
So one wants to be the best fighter in the world, basically. Classic. He's playing a bit dumb character also, so it's fine. Like the adventures themselves, I've been trying to have them be like self-contained, basically.
To wrap up quite a long and rambling conversation, you do have a big overarching plot line, but it's important to remember that sometimes your players need to have the option to not have to worry about the morally grey stuff. Like, let's just go kill some undead for a little bit. We've talked about how it's important to make sure we start wrapping up our adventures. And in the first part of it, we talked about different ways you can frame a villain, right? They could be a straight up villain, they're just straight up evil, and there's no saving them. Or we can frame them as something a little bit more morally grey. We can focus on introducing them and having them interact in the world in different ways. There's lots of different options you have there that we discussed about. Do you feel like this conversation has helped with what you were stuck on? Is there anything else you want to discuss?
I think it has like helped me decide, though we didn't like talk about it. I understood that I have to make that adventure much more simpler than I was thinking.
Yeah.
For I had already like inside that adventure, I had different factions, I had a mystery, and so on. But I like in my context, like I think the things that I've written are they could work like in a bigger adventure, but for this I need a quest.
I would also add, if you want this quest to include more things, don't be afraid to reuse the factions you already have. Like, from the outside, it sounds like you have enough pieces to keep this game going for the next. Act 1 is where you introduce new characters. You're now in Act 2. If you're still introducing new characters and new ideas, the players are going to start feeling like it's like, oh, it's more people and more people and more people. No, you're in Act 2 now. It sounds like you've put enough world building that any 90% of what you should be interacting with, definitely the factions, but still a lot of the NPCs, should be coming back. Even if those NPCs need to have changed in the intervening time, that can probably help to give the world this feeling of like, maybe early on they met some like guard who they inspired, and he's now a knight, right? And he's like doing great things. And then in Act 3, or even later on, he might come back and he might now be like, you have quite a great game. He might be pretty grizzled because he's seen things now that the campaign has progressed. He was a normal guard, they inspired him to be a knight, he's gone to war, and now a bunch of the people he knew has died. And he's like, wow, this was not how I thought my life would turn out. And that kind of progression as they interact with these factions and the NPCs you've already set up more allows the game to have that weight and for things to change. So if you want this quest to be more complex, don't introduce new factions and NPCs, reuse the ones you already have.
That is a really good point. A simple point, but a really good point. Yeah, I have been listening to that Land of Wizards of Eam podcast. Yeah. And they multiple times quote the thing that like it's always better to introduce the same character, like the character they already know, than to introduce a new character.
If you want to sit down with me, check the pinned comment below for more details. But basically, you can either come by one of my free Q&As, you can ask a question on the Patreon, or you can book some one-on-one time with me like this. If you book the one-on-one time and I can't solve your problem, money back guaranteed. If you enjoyed this, I have 2 others just like it, so check the video appearing on screen now. And as always, there's no secret bonus video. You can head off now.